It started with a simple call for help. A woman alone in her home, afraid. Her name was Sonya Massey, 36 years old, a mother, a woman of faith, and someone who believed that prayer could protect her. But on July 19, 2024, her faith would collide with fear in a way that still haunts an entire community. That night, Sonya called 911. She told the dispatcher she thought someone was outside her house, that she didn't feel safe. It wasn't the first time someone in Springfield, Illinois, made a call like that. And it should have been routine. 2 sheriff's deputies were dispatched to her address. Among them was Deputy Sean Grayson, a relatively new officer, only months into the job. He had passed his basic training. But some instructors had noticed something in him, something off. A tendency to overreact. To lead with force instead of calm. Still, that night, he was sent out anyway. When the deputies arrived, everything seemed calm. Sonya met them at the door, polite, soft-spoken, even apologetic for calling. She explained that she heard noises outside and thought someone might be trying to break in. The officers assured her they'd take a look around. The footage from the bodycam shows a calm, almost routine scene. Sonya moves toward her kitchen as she speaks. She picks up a pot, still half full of water from earlier. Deputy Grayson, on edge, raises his voice. "Put that down." And she does. She places the pot on the counter. Then, with quiet conviction, she says something that would soon become infamous. "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." Those would be her last words. Without hesitation, without warning, Grayson fired. 3 shots. In less than 2 seconds. Sonya fell instantly. The sound of gunfire filled the small kitchen. The other deputy froze. Grayson stood there, gun still raised, saying, "She said something. I thought she was gonna throw it. But she never moved. She never attacked. She was praying." When paramedics arrived, Sonya was already gone. And just like that, a woman who had called for help became another name in America's long list of victims of police violence. Within hours, the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office released a short statement calling it a tragic event. But the public wasn't buying it. Because soon after, the bodycam footage began circulating, and what people saw was horrifying. There was no struggle. No aggression. Just a woman speaking words of faith, and being met with bullets. The footage ignited outrage across Illinois. Protests began outside the sheriff's office. People held candles, pictures of Sonya smiling, and signs that read, "She called for help. Help killed her." Her mother, Sonya Massey, stood before the crowd and said, "She was scared that night. She did everything right. And now she's gone." Those words struck a nerve. For days later, the Illinois State Police announced the arrest of Deputy Sean Grayson. He was charged with first-degree murder and official misconduct. The investigators reviewed every frame of the footage, every detail of the crime scene, and came to one conclusion. There was no justification. None. Grayson's decision to shoot was not just unreasonable, it was criminal. When the footage became public, it went viral nationwide. Millions watched as Sonya's final words echoed online. "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." For her family, it was unbearable. Her mother said she still couldn't sleep every night she heard the sound of those gunshots. The case quickly became a national symbol, not just of police violence, but of the deadly intersection between fear, power, and race. Civil rights activists rallied behind Sonya's name. Churches across the country held vigils. And on social media, the hashtag Justice for Sonya flooded every platform. But while the public mourned, prosecutors built their case. They discovered that during training, Grayson had failed several de-escalation tests. One instructor had noted, displays panic under verbal stress. Another wrote, needs more control training. Despite this, he was cleared for patrol. And just weeks later, he killed an unarmed woman holding nothing but faith. When the trial began, the courtroom was packed. Reporters filled every seat. Sonya's mother sat in the front row holding a framed photo of her daughter. On the stand, prosecutors replayed the bodycam footage, and the entire room went silent. Then came the sound, 3 deafening gunshots. The same sound that ended Sonya's life. Grayson didn't flinch. He just stared at the floor. His defense argued that he feared for his life. That he thought Sonya was going to throw boiling water on him. But forensic evidence proved otherwise. The pot was cold. The water had been sitting for hours. When the prosecutor cross-examined him, he asked one question that cut through everything. What weapon did she have? Grayson had no answer. In closing arguments, the prosecution told the jury. She called for help. He gave her bullets. And those words stuck. After weeks of testimony, the jury delivered its verdict. Guilty of second-degree murder. Outside the courthouse, crowds erupted in both grief and relief. Some said the verdict was a victory for accountability. Others said no sentence could ever be enough. But for Sonya's family, it was something deeper, closure, at least in part. In the months after the verdict, murals of Sonya appeared across Springfield. Each one painted her smiling, radiant, peaceful, surrounded by light. Beneath them, the same words she spoke that night. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. They became a symbol. A reminder of faith against fear. A reminder of how quickly trust can turn into tragedy. Civil rights leaders have since pushed for Sonya's Law, a proposal requiring specialized psychological evaluation and crisis intervention training for officers responding to domestic or wellness calls. Because if fear can lead to murder, then fear must be addressed before the badge is given. But beyond policy and reform, Sonya's story forces us to ask a harder question. What happens when the people we call for protection become the ones we fear? Her house still stands today, quiet, ordinary, unchanged from the outside. But inside, there are reminders of the woman who once filled it with prayer and peace. Her mother still visits sometimes, lighting a candle in her memory. And sometimes, strangers stop too, to leave flowers, to whisper a prayer, to speak her name. Because Sonya Massey was not just a statistic. She was a believer. A daughter. A woman who deserved better. Her final words were a declaration of faith. And in a cruel twist, they became her eulogy. But maybe, in some way, her voice still echoes. Not in fear, but in defiance. Against the systems that failed her. Against the fear that took her life. And as long as people remember her, as long as we say her name, she still speaks. This was the Sonya Massey case. A story of faith, fear, and fatal failure.